and welcome everybody. Welcome again to another episode of Thursday Tea with Sami. So happy to have you here. And today we have a special guest with us, Dr. Patricia Eaton. And rather than me tell you a bunch of things about her, I'm going to let her tell us a little bit about herself. Hi, Patricia, and welcome to our episode today. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do? We're so excited to hear about what you've been up to.
All right. So hello, everyone. I am Dr. Patricia Eaton. As Dr. Strada already mentioned, I am a clinical psychologist, just like Dr. Strada is. We know each other from from working together back in the past. So I'm a clinical psychologist. I have experience having worked in community mental health, in substance abuse programs, in the Department of Psychiatry for many years. And today I work in private practice. So I just see patients like I'm seeing you right now, virtually and all over the world, believe it or not. And that's what I do. And also, aside from just my individual work with patients, one of the things I love to do is to do classes and curriculum. So what that means is that I do classes for the patients, sometimes in person, sometimes virtually, like the one we're doing today. And I talk a little bit about a variety of topics. Some of the topics that I love to talk about it's women's empowerment. So if you are familiar with my work, you may have seen me post or talk about this, and also positive psychology. So it's a perfect topic for us to talk about here today.
Perfect. Thank you. You do so many wonderful things. In fact, I think you're going to be um, giving a talk pretty soon, right?
Yes, actually, I don't know how many people are familiar with the Sonoma Raceway. I think that Sonoma Raceway is known like all over the United States
Right.
because like I think it's, well, I'm gonna say things people who love cars are gonna be like, she doesn't know what she's talking about, which they're gonna be correct. And I think it's a NASCAR that happens there. I don't know, don't quote me on it. If you do like cars, you can correct us, here you can give the proper information. But Sonoma Raceway, it's a nice raceway in Sonoma, California, and that is going to be the place where we're going to have a big conference that is a day against human trafficking on the 31st of January of 2024. I'll give information at the end about that for anybody who would be interested in that. But
Sounds
yeah.
great.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks for telling us about that. And honestly, I don't know about the race cars either. I know that they do racing. I don't know if it's NASCAR either. So we're on the same boat.
Exactly. So if people who know cars and races, they are watching, they are
Yeah.
appalled, we apologize.
They are.
Yeah.
And you guys feel free to leave us a comment. Teach us what we don't know. Well, today I wanted to talk a little bit about self-care, which I know is a topic that's very near and dear to your heart. And I think that it's a super important topic. And as we're getting closer to the holidays, it's I think even more important. I think people neglect self-care a lot in general. And a lot more as it gets closer to the holidays and we just get busier with our year and with the things that we need to do. So, I wanted to ask you, can you tell us a little bit about what self-care is? I know a lot of people think self-care is like eating meals and exercising and things like that, but I know self-care is a lot more than that. Can you explain a little bit about what self-care is?
Yeah, and thank you for talking about this because it's such an important topic and it's that kind of thing that is so simple, but
Mhm.
people are still not doing it. Like sometimes we don't do it. And it's just like it's so basic and so simple. So like it may seem like something that is self-explanatory, but like sometimes it's nice to just kind of like dive into it and kind of like really explore what it is. So, first, I want us to think about self-care. Like you mentioned, exercise and eating, you know, proper nutrition. That can be self-care, right? Like that can be self-care, but self-care is a little bit more than that. So, when we are talking about self-care in mental health, right? Like, because we are here, our business is a little bit of mental health, which actually mental health and physical health goes together, like it's kind of like two things that are intertwined, but we are concerned about like how is self-care uh what is self-care for mental health. So when we are talking about this is activities, behaviors, um, frames of mind, time that you dedicate to recharge yourself,
Mhm.
to do the basic things that you need to take care of yourself. And we are talking your physical self and your mental self, your emotional self, your social self, like yourself as a whole. So a lot of times you may hear about like, okay, what is self-care? Oh, I need to get a massage, or I need to go to get my nails done, or I need to buy myself something nice. And I'm not going to say that this is not a form of self-care. It can be, but we are talking here about something even simpler. Like, for example, breathing, like you literally saying,
Yeah.
oh, I need to take 2 minutes to just breathe, or
Yes.
to stand up from in front of the computer and go outside. And I want to say that it is pretty common that we just kind of like running on fumes, like running on empty. This is a very common thing in our everyday life for all of us. And working in mental health for so many years, and I'm sure that has happened to you, Dr. Strada, that like people come and they are talking about their depression, they're talking about their anxiety, they're talking about their relationship problems, they talk about stress. And sometimes I ask them a simple question like, when was the last time that you went for a walk? And they just like look so puzzled.
Right.
They,
Like
I don't
it's the
even
weirdest question
remember.
in the world. They can't even think of when's the last time. That happens so much. Yes.
Or I would ask someone, what do you like to do for fun? And the person just bursts
They
into
don't know.
tears. Like I
Mhm.
have seen this happen like many times, that it just dawns on that person who is so stressed
Mhm.
that like the little things that keep them alive, that keep them happy, that
Mhm.
keep them breathing, that makes them look forward to the next day, they
Yeah.
haven't been doing. So yeah, so it's a topic that I really love because it's about taking care of yourself and also loving yourself at the same time.
Yes, yes. I'm so happy that you brought that up because I find that so often that people are not doing the things that recharge them, the things that they love, or even just stopping to breathe or stopping to stand up in between tasks on the computer. And I know a lot of people also who haven't done that in so long that they don't even remember what they enjoy doing. I ask them, what kind of things do you enjoy doing? And they say, I don't know. I can't even think of a single thing that I enjoy doing. Um, and I think along with that comes some misconceptions. I think that people have certain misconceptions about self-care. Do you have any idea of what some of those misconceptions might be?
Well, if you're thinking what I'm thinking, like I
Uh-huh.
think one of the misconceptions that people have is that self-care is indulgent.
Yeah.
Like that it's like, I have so many things to do. I'm going to spend time like doing something extra. Like I already have so many problems. Like what makes her think that I have time to take a bubble bath?
Right.
So it's almost like it's a waste of time. And I want to make sure I address that it's, we are holding cups here in a minute, like teacups. Like it's like there is that old saying, everybody knows that you can't pour out of an empty cup.
Yes.
So what it seems to be indulgent at a time that you're already running thin, right? You feel like I'm already stretched so thin. Like what makes her think I have another 20 minutes to go just sit in a bath? Like
Mhm.
seriously?
Yeah.
I know, I get it. Like I hear that. But the reality is after that 20 minutes bubble bath, all the other things that you're doing that is stretching you so thin are gonna make be a little bit easier.
Yes.
Still gonna be hard. It's life. It's a lot of things, but it will be a little bit easier. Sometimes, like when we take a little minute, and we all know that, and we do something fun, we come back to the other tasks with just a little bit more bandwidth.
Yeah.
And we come back with a little more bandwidth. We come back less resentful. We come back more present because we did something for us versus walking around just feeling like it's never enough and asking ourselves, even in the back of our mind, like, when is my turn? How come it's all me? And then feeling resentful and walking around like that. And even treating the people around us with this underlying resentment that is living in there, that is kind of growing over time.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I think you're right. And One thing that I've found too is that self-care isn't always about doing more. Sometimes self-care is about doing less, taking something off of your list, giving yourself that extra 10 minutes to stretch or just to not think, you know. Have you found that in your practice as well?
Like that is actually one of my favorite like lessons of the activities of self-care. And that goes for, with the conversation that we just did. I said, maybe taking that bubble bath feels or taking a shower. I'm not
Hmm.
even talking about a bath. I'm talking about
Yes.
something simple like taking a shower and like turning on the music in there, like that you can just be like checked out for like 5 minutes.
Yes.
Uh, it does feel like it takes more time, but sometimes self-care can be taking something off your plate. For example, saying no to a commitment or saying, on Sunday, I'm not going to do one little thing outside of the house. I'm just going to be home all day. I'm going to dedicate to like getting my week together, resting, watching some stuff. Like, so I think we all know who we are on that scale. Like, so it is kind of like for some people, self-care may be doing an extra thing that you need to do for yourself. For some of us, self-care may be doing less. I do think I'm one of those people that like I can do a little bit less. I'm always go, go, go,
Yeah.
Dr. Strada. So sometimes I tell myself, okay, instead of trying to cram 5 things into this day, let me just put one or
Yeah.
three.
Yes.
And so it is enjoyable versus like so stressful. So that is also a form of self-care. Just kind of like
Absolutely.
saying no to something, giving yourself time to do nothing,
Yes. Yes,
right?
absolutely. And sometimes there's things that we can do that don't even take any extra time. For example, one of my favorite self-care activities is to listen to my favorite music while I'm showering. That doesn't take any extra time because I was going to shower anyway, but being able to listen to the music and first thing in the morning as I'm getting ready, it just gets me in a different mood, I'm ready for my day, I'm dancing, I'm singing in the shower, I come out, I'm in a good mood. I'm starting off my day on a good foot. And it didn't take me any longer other than just asking Alexa to play my favorite music?
Exactly. I just did that
Okay.
right before we talked. I
Yeah.
listened to music like yeah, in the shower. I was singing along and it was great. I
Yeah.
totally recommend.
Yes, absolutely. But why do you think it's so hard for people?
So I think that, well, first the misconceptions, right? Like people not understanding exactly like what is self-care and kind of imagining that self-care is something so big, right? Like I need to have time for this, I need to have money for this, and not understanding that self-care is the little things that just kind of charge your battery. I always joke with people that if we if we minded charging ourselves like we mind charging our cell phone like every day, people walk around with their cell phone and their charger. They are walking into a
Yes.
house, a business. They say, "Can I plug my phone? Can I plug my phone?" I was like,
Yes.
"About this, what plugs you, right? Like, what plugs you? What kind of puts that little juice in you, just like we do it on our phone?" And it can be like small things, like you said. So I think one of the things that make it hard is people not fully understanding that it doesn't need to be this big thing. It doesn't need to cost money. It doesn't need to be something so extraordinary that takes you a lot of effort. The other thing is I think it's very easy for people, and then there's a lot of like there are even like maybe cultural norms or gender like stereotypes or that kind of like also feed that
Mhm.
idea. So for example, for a lot of women, for example, we never really had like watch women in our lives practice self-care. Like
Right.
I don't know about you, but like I don't remember my mom sitting down. Like, she was always
Right.
had a broom or a
Yes.
rag.
Always
She
going.
was right. I don't know. Maybe it's like maybe it's a Latin mom that I had, but she was always like there was almost this idea that a woman sitting down was lazy.
Yes.
So, like you need to be useful, you need to be doing something. So, like, I didn't really watch my mother rest. It was something that so in turn, I didn't learn how to do that. So, it's kind of hard for me sometimes. I have to remind myself that it's okay to waste a little time, even
Yes.
it's hard for it not to call a waste. So,
Right.
that's one thing. I think role models. Even for men too, there's in another way, maybe being hardworking, it's like a thing, like, you need to be hardworking. Or for example, a lot of men in a lot of cultures are like, it's self-care is almost like maybe you're being too much of a baby, you're being weak if
Yeah.
you admit that you're tired or that you hurt or that you need to go to the doctor.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of like getting a checkup. It's like, no, I'm strong, like I'm fine, so we receive messages that don't contribute to like our
Yeah.
seeking mental health help, for example, especially for men, and especially in certain cultures, is kind of like, which can be an activity of self-care or a very important thing. Sometimes it doesn't happen. And then I think the probably the most basic reason why people don't practice self-care, especially people who are I don't think people see the importance. It feels like there is so many more important things in our lives that like taking care of ourselves, like it just starts falling into the last
Yeah.
spot, right? So it's like, okay, I'm going to the gym. Like, once I go to the store, I clean my house, I take care of the kids, I pay these bills, I do my work, blah, blah. And then I'm going. And
Right.
then it doesn't happen because there is always like, if you are constantly the last thing on your list, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
Like, it's going to be too often that you're not going to get to the last item, which is you.
Yes.
So, in this case, I urge people, do not put yourself last on the list. It may seem a little bit selfish. I'm going to say it's not.
Yeah.
It's necessary, right? Like, you're not going to charge your phone last and
Right.
then you're going to make all those phone calls. You're going to charge
Yeah.
your phone first because otherwise you're not going to have juice for those
Yeah.
phone calls, right? And for those emails and for those things. Same with your computer. So think about that way for yourself.
Yes, that's wonderful. And it makes so much sense, right? If we didn't have that role modeled, if we haven't seen it, if we haven't done it, that's a difficult thing for us to do. So, what would you recommend? Somebody who hasn't seen this all their life, maybe that wasn't what was role modeled for them, or maybe somebody who has just life has gotten too busy and they've kind of lost track of self-care. What would you recommend for somebody wanting to start up self-care again? What would be helpful?
Okay, that's a wonderful question. So, like, the first thing I wanted to tell you is maybe you can blame it on us. Say, when you go home and you're about to do something, you're gonna be, I'm going to my Zumba this morning. You can say, I watched two doctors on the internet. They told me I should do it. So, like, sometimes I tell the patient, I said, blame it on me. I say,
Yes.
like, when you go home, said, my doctor said I need to be doing this, so like
Doctor's orders, yes.
exactly, doctor's order. So if you need to kind of rely on, like, if it makes you feel a little bit better, say, the doctor said, or doctors recommend, or I saw this doctor online and she was saying that this is very important. So like, like you have us to kind of like, use that as your springboard. But one thing that I do and I totally recommend is put yourself on your schedule like you are an important meeting, an important thing. So, like, there are people, you teach people how to treat you. You teach people about you, what's important to you. You teach people how important your time is. So, for example, if people ask you, hey, um, can you, I don't know, drive me somewhere, and you say, oh, I'm sorry, Tuesdays and Thursday mornings, that's my walking class or my walking group. They'll
Mm,
be like, oh, okay, maybe they won't like it. Next time you say it again, they say, oh, Tuesdays and Thursdays, remember that every morning is my walk. And you can tell that to your spouse, you can tell that to your kids, you can tell that to your friends. After a while, when they need you on Tuesday morning, they're gonna be like, oh, where is it's her walk.
yes.
Forget, like it, like, so basically you're creating that habit for yourself and you're teaching the people around you to that time is sacred,
Yes.
that time is for you. Also, maybe another thing is start very tiny. Kind of just think about, like, you notice yourself, your shoulders are like this and you're typing all day and you just say, okay, can I just breathe? Like, can I just like stand up and walk outside and maybe take 3 deep breaths and that's it. That's what I did for myself. So I'm gonna give you a couple of like very, very easy little things just for people to think about, like, oh, I didn't even think about that as self-care, right? So standing up for a few minutes in the middle of your workday, just standing up and breathing, walking outside if you've been in front of the screen for too long, and just like being outside for like 1 minute. Maybe even you can even be mindful, like look outside and say, what is outside? What do I see? Oh, I see trees, I see the sky, I see a bird. What do I hear? Kind of like just taking a little time. Um, Going to sleep at a time that is good for you, that you get enough sleep, saying no to some stuff. So see how that doesn't, all of those things don't cost anything,
Right.
right? Like Dr. Strata, like you said earlier, like listening to music when you take a shower, or when you take a bath, and just remembering that, like, if recharging you, it's not a luxury, it's not a spoil, it's not selfish. You need that.
Yes.
We mind our cars, our phones, our computers, our everything. We always like charging, we know like if it runs out of juice, it's not gonna work.
Right.
What makes us think we don't need that too?
Exactly. Yes. Yes. Thank you. Those are such wonderful points. I, as you were talking, I was remembering an example that you said once a long time ago, and I don't know if I remember it exactly. And I wonder if you remember it. It was an example that you gave about flip-flops, where it was like shaking the sand off of your flip-flops. Do you remember that?
Yes, I actually had been thinking about this because I'm going to be talking at the conference, and
Yes.
I was thinking about this. It's not the flip-flops, but I know what you're talking about.
Okay.
But it's great. I was thinking that it's like, if you think about it, I came up with this just so you know.
Yeah, oh, I know you did. I remember
I don't
that.
know how. I don't know how, but it's something. It's like, so basically, it is like when you live, you're living, like, stress, work, kids, house, everything, bills. It's like going to the beach, right? You go to the beach and you're gonna bring sand back with you,
Yes.
which is that stress.
Yeah.
So think about that, like practicing self-care, like, those 5 minutes breathing, maybe sitting in your car for like 2 minutes after you come back from work before you go in, and like doing a meditation, or like just listening to something funny, even like something kind of
Yes.
random. It's kind of like you're trying to shake off some of that sand, right? Like you're
Yes,
trying to shake off
exactly.
some of that. You will bring some of that sand with you. You know how it is, right? Like
Yes.
if you find sand for like 5 days after you went to
Yes.
the beach or more, you're like, why is there sand? And like, why do I feel sand on the bottom of my feet here in this place? You will. But the idea is shake as much sand off as you possibly can. Don't we do that? Like we
Yes.
shake our towel, we shake our body, we rinse off, we do everything. We try not to bring all that sand back into our home, into our bed, into our lives. Some come because, it's
Yes.
sticky, but we try to shake off as much sand as we can before, so we can, you know start
Mm.
off fresh and clean.
Yeah.
So it's similar if you think
Yeah.
about life, stress, like the activities of self-care is helping you shake off some of that stressful energy that you accumulated throughout the day, so you can sleep better, be more present, be a better parent, partner, worker, person, and just feel better in general.
Yes. Ah, such
That's
wonderful
funny that you,
advice.
that's funny that you remember that, but
I
yes.
know. It just came to me as you were speaking, and I remember you sharing that example once. And I think, I could be wrong, but I think that when we were together was when you came up with it, and you were very proud that you came up with that
Very
example.
proud.
That,
Obviously, years have gone by, and I apparently I'm still proud, right, of it.
yes. I am so grateful for you sharing this information with everyone. And I think, such wonderful information and such important things for us to pay attention to and to incorporate into our life. So thank you very much for being here and for sharing your knowledge with us. And I'm wondering, if anybody wants to learn more about what you're doing, or if anybody wants to work with you, or maybe take one of the classes that you mentioned, how could they get a hold of you?
So, well, I hope we convinced a few people today to practice self-care. Like it's really dear to my heart, Dr. Strata. So that's the first thing. So I have, as I mentioned, I work primarily with individual patients, also do classes. I also do talks and, like people reach out for me for things like that. My website is livingwithoutlimits.world. And I love that name too, because it
Yes.
kind of like embodies like my idea. As you know, like um, I am in California, in Florida, and sometimes all over the world, like I'm actually talking to you from overseas today. I'm talking to you from Trinidad and Tobago, from Tobago of Trinidad and Tobago. So I went to grab some sand on the beach today before we had
Yes.
this talk too. So like there's sand here all around the place. So yeah, so livingwithoutlimits.world, it's my website. I am on Instagram, is Dr. Patricia Eaton, it's Dr. Patricia Eaton, just the way it sounds. Yeah, and people can reach out to me that way and just kind of like take a look at what I do and yeah, hopefully get some tidbits and incorporate into their lives just to see, like sometimes it takes researching a lot of different things to see what's going to work for you.
Yes, yes. I often tell people to just look up stuff online because there are so many ideas. Sometimes we just can't think of, what are some things that I would enjoy? And I say, just look up online because there's hundreds and hundreds of ideas online. And then you can see if there's, anything that calls your attention, anything that sounds like fun, anything that sounds like something you would enjoy. Um, because sometimes it's hard for us to think about it. So. Anyway,
Exactly.
thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And
Thank you so
I
much.
I know our guests appreciate it too. And I hope if there are any comments, please leave us comments. If you like what you hear, please subscribe. And we hope to see you here next week.
All right.
All
Thank
right.
you. I
Thanks.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Bye-bye.